I wanted to start kind of with this story about Kokoro. And
yes, sir.
So, and I don't know how much we've talked about it, but just, you know, and you can go and Google Kokoro, Seal Fit Kokoro, and get the full download on what it is. But suffice it to say, it's a program out in California that was started by a gentleman named Mark Devine, maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That it was set up so that guys that were going to go into, got a contract to go be a SEAL. It was helping them train the mental toughness, you know, kind of all aspects of helping them go make it through BUD/S, Hell Week, and all that. And so, but eventually, I don't know how long he was doing it until a bunch of his civilian friends wanted to like test their mettle and say, well, let me try this, you know. And so then I can't remember what year, but they opened it up to civilians. Anyways, I found out about it, I think in like 2013.
Right.
And at the time, you start doing some research and like, holy shit, like, this is a real deal. Like,
yes, it is.
you got to train up for it. And so, long story short, I tried in 2016. I failed, and I ended up
to get into the program.
No, to go through the program, to make it through. It's essentially it's a 50-something hour experience, right?
Sure.
But I failed in 2016. I made it through in 2017. And then if you make it through, they can invite you back to come intern and help facilitate the event. And I was fortunate enough to go and do that several times. And so 2019?
Yes, sir.
2019?
Yeah, it sure was.
So I fly out there. I'm going to do the event. I'm going to help.
We're out in California.
It's in Encinitas?
No,
I'm sorry.
Temecula.
Yeah,
Temecula.
Their headquarters was in Encinitas. Yeah, Temecula.
That's correct.
Right, real close to Palomar Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, so I go out there and, we're getting set up, and it's a really interesting experience on the other side.
Oh, I bet so. Yeah.
There's a lot of preparation. So they bring some coaches from the civilian side. There's some active duty, some former, SEALs that are part of the event, helping coach and do it. And so they do a lot of research on the people that are coming in to do the event. I would
imagine.
Okay. So I mean, again, there's a lot of mental aspects to this. I mean, they're trying to test what you're made of, right? Yeah. So it's not only physical, it's mental too.
Absolutely.
So, so I fly out there, like, I think, like on a Friday, we get there, we're setting everything up, get up the next morning. And so all the participants show up, I don't know, 7 a.m., 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever. They pull into the park.
How many people?
Anywhere 30s, 30 people.
With our class, I believe it was 21 people. The first time I went through, I think it was 21. Yeah.
So, they show up. Everybody, kind of gets their stuff together, and then one of the coaches goes out and lines everybody up, and gets them ready to go. And so, what always happens is the coaches they sit in a van, and we make them wait. So the guys are they're sitting there waiting, right? Because and it's designed to start freaking people out, because they've read about it, they've watched about it, they've watched videos, they're there finally, they're nervous. I mean, so we're sitting in this van, and one of the coaches goes, "Hey man, we got a special participant." And we're like, "Okay," and they're like, "This guy's got a little notoriety, a little celebrity. Yeah, he's a pretty boy." Okay, like
who are they talking about?
We're gonna make this real special for him. Okay,
yeah.
And so I don't know if it was JR or somebody. They go, "Hey, tell Womack to come up here." So they're like, "Womack, come over here." And so here Brad comes, walking over, and they make him stand right by the van, and he's looking through the window. And I happen to be right on the other side of the window, and I didn't know who Brad was at the time. And so they start running through, like, this is who this guy is. And the coaches inside are like,
wow, you're just standing out there.
He's standing outside. He doesn't know what's going on.
I know nothing about this.
He's outside the van just standing there.
Right. Can you see through it all?
No, sir. No. Pitch black, dark tinted windows, nothing.
So listen, all the coaches are in there going, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. And so the first 12 hours of Kokoro it's partially weeding people out. It's partially making sure that you can do the standards.
Sure.
Right? So they publish the standards. It's a certain number of push-ups in 2 minutes, sit-ups, squats.
Oh my God.
You got to run a mile in boots in a certain amount of time. there's a workout called Murph that you got to complete with weight in a certain amount of time. And that's really just designed to make sure that that physically you can make it through the event. But the first 12 hours are really just, you're weeding people out. Right. And so, going throughout the first 12 hours, I don't know. I wasn't around Brad, you very much like the first, but here's what I remember. It's probably 10 o'clock at night at this point. We're doing Murph. Right?
Yeah.
And you know what Murph is?
I don't.
Okay. Well, you run a mile and then you come back and it's like 300, push-ups, 200 pull-up, or I'm sorry, 300 squats, 200 pull-ups, and 100, no.
So 100 pull-ups,
100 pull-ups,
200 push-ups,
200 push-ups, 300
squats, then followed by
Just
another
back
mile
to back
run.
to back to back.
Yeah. And you got to do that under weight in 70 minutes?
70 minutes.
70
yes,
minutes.
sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, that first section weeds a bunch of guys out. It's surprising how many people show up and they're not ready.
Yeah.
So the first thing I remember is I see Brad over on the side and he's throwing up.
Just
throwing up.
Yeah.
And so I went and got one of the medics, because there's medics involved, and they went and checked on him.
Sure.
He's like, dude, I'm good. I got to keep going. And again, forgive me if I don't get the details exactly right.
Yeah.
But we let him keep going.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how long later he's over there throwing up again, and they're like, they start talking like, dude, if he keeps doing this, we're gonna have to kick him out because it becomes an issue. And so he keeps going, and then I don't know, maybe a third time or something. I think I vaguely remember they asked you, have you been peeing? Are you peeing brown or something like that? And you said, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Well, that means he's getting rhabdo. Rhabdomyosis is a condition where like your body starts breaking itself down.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous. It's fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, but Brad's like,
at that point, what was going through your mind? Just
I'll
keep
tell you,
going
man.
or what?
Yeah, absolutely.
well, hold
Yeah.
on. Let me-
All right. Jeez.
And so, and I got to tell you, by this point, the coaches were rooting for you. And
thank you.
Because this guy, like, was probably top every evolution. This guy was winning every evolution, putting out. I mean, like, and he fucking wanted it. And you knew he wanted it, right? And so the coaches were disappointed. They're like, man, like, we want to let him stay. And the medics were like, dude, we're riding the line of like, this could be really dangerous. He could hurt himself. And so they made the decision of pulling him. And so a guy named Robert Owens, or Hamilton, sorry, Robert Owens. Is it Hamilton? Fuck, Robert's going to kill me now. Robert, really great guy. He went through Kokoro in his 60s. Like, tough motherfucker. So he and I had the job of putting Brad in a van and taking him to the hospital.
Yeah.
And this is what I remember. All he gave a shit about was us. He was asking questions about us, where we're from. Like, tell me about your family. And I'm sitting there going, this motherfucker just got his ass kicked for 12 hours and he's asking about me. So, dude, I got to tell you, man, like I knew this was, you talking about salt of the earth, dude, and a guy that's fucking squared away and solid. Like, anyways. So, got into the hospital, and unfortunately, we just, we just dropped him off, and we had to get back. So I don't know. I don't know. Were you in the hospital for a couple of days?
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what happened. I was in the hospital for 3 days.
Oh my gosh!
And whenever I got admitted, I appreciate the kind words, by the way, and I also want to say thank you for having me on the podcast. I want to get that out there because I am very grateful. But so whenever I'm in a weird situation, I try to deflect with humor. I'm not a funny guy. I'm saying this for a reason.
Yeah.
And the doctor had come in and he was explaining what was going on, and I made some stupid joke. I forget what it was, and he got very serious and exact words. He said, "Son, I don't know if you realize how bad this is. Your kidneys are functioning at 30% of what they're capable of. You're looking at being on dialysis for the rest of your life.
Oh, shit.
We need to get this dialed in." And then the joke stopped, obviously.
Yeah.
And so, but to back your point, what Jeremy was saying, Kokoro I took really seriously. I had trained for so long, so hard, and had so much respect for these guys. And so, I had been throwing up for about 8 of those 10, 12 hours.
Yeah.
And the medics had told me, he gave me one last kind of ultimatum. He said, if you throw up one more time, I have to pull you for your safety. And that's what happened. But back to your point, man, you don't understand. I did that in large part because of trying to emulate guys like you, and I'm telling you, this isn't a, I don't want to turn it around and give a false compliment or whatever, but that's the truth. And so, yeah, it broke me whenever I didn't make it the first time. Thank God I went back and was able to secure it. But anyway, yeah, lesson learned, man. Yeah, it broke me. It's the real deal.
Sure.
So, but anyway, I appreciate you guys being so cool about it.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was totally unfortunate because you were definitely. I mean, you could tell that you were prepared, and we're like, dude, this guy. We were just thinking, man, if he didn't have the the rhabdo didn't start, this guy was going to kill the event. Like, which was amazing. So it was disappointing, but I'm glad that you went and finally completed it. So
you took. I didn't know that you didn't make it the first time for whatever reason, and you had told me that long after the fact. I don't know if you remember that we had met up for lunch.
Yeah,
it was after the fact, and just goes to show that sometimes you don't always hit home runs.
That's
right?
Absolutely right.
And in a strange way, I'm kind of glad that I went through that process of failure. I don't know about you guys. I learn much more from failures.
I fail every day.
I mean, me too. I'm a walking billboard for failure in relationships, and
I'm a stubborn.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah. So you find that too.
Absolutely.
But you obviously are the type of guy that kind of pick yourself up by the bootstraps. Let's go.
Yeah, you got
let's
to
get after it again. And but it took a while to get over that emotionally a little bit. And
when did you go back and finish it?
So it's funny. That's a loaded question because I think we were wrong. It was 2018 because I was going to try 19, but COVID came along.
Gotcha.
Okay. Or was that 20?
20, yeah.
So I'd been training for the March Kokoro in 2020.
Okay. Yeah.
That's when it happened, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I had the benefit, I kid you not, so that made me train for almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
And it's brutal training.
Yeah.
But when I showed up, it was March of 21.
Okay.
And ironically, it was the coldest Kokoro on record. I mean, it just, so 16 of us showed up this time, only 6 of us secured. Yeah. 2 got hypothermia, had to go to the hospital. Yeah. And so, but anyway, but I had the benefit of training that long and that hard for a year and a half. And I'm going to tell you this, and I've said this very publicly. I was going to secure that. I would have run through.
Yeah.
I know the saying, and everyone says, sure. I'm not kidding. I would have run through a cinder block wall to train, and nothing was said to me that I couldn't handle. Yeah. Nothing was done. Yeah. I was just going to get it done, and it was the most fulfilling accomplishment of my life to this day.
Yeah. Wow.
They don't hold back, man. But anyway. And I still learn from it. I know we're here to discuss, hopefully business or leadership or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I pull from that on a daily basis.
Sure. Yeah.
When in my career, my personal and professional relationships, when they're not going the way I want them to, think, look, man, if you can go through quite literal 38 degrees in an ice bath and it's raining nonstop at that point, it rained almost 24 hours straight. And then we got a little break, and you're seeing people go to the hospital that are quite literally blue because they're then, I mean, you can deal with a girl breaking your heart, or you can deal with, a business proposition or something, opportunity not working out. Yeah. You're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
So,
one of the things Mark says, like you're going to meet yourself somewhere in this journey.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and you do. And you have a decision whether to go on to be somebody else or because the weak version of yourself shows up over and over and over.
Yes,
probably quick.
Especially at night.
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up. They ask you that you have to have a why. Why are you doing this? Yeah. And my why, and I'm very open about this, is I wanted to prove to myself I'm not a fraud. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. One, I'm my harshest critic. But anyway, we all, I think, live pretty comfortable lives. I mean, I know we work really hard to obtain said comfortable life, but I just mean good health and all that. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to prove I talk a big talk. You have to go out and get it. And I wanted to back that up, and make sure to myself, no one else, that I'm being true to myself. I mean, you talk this big game about going after and, working hard and all this. Well,
got to walk the walk.
Damn right you
Yeah.
and I tell you, they make you walk the walk, man. A couple times. Like, maybe I am a fraud. And I'm okay with that.
I'm a crawl a little bit.
Exactly. Hot cup of coffee and a warm shower feels good right now.
Dude,
Screw all this discomfort and all this stuff,
Yeah.
But anyway, no, that's a joke. But so it's you're right. You realize really quickly which version of yourself shows up.
That's right.
And how much more of yourself you have. And I loved it. I loved it because I walked away walking a little taller, know. So I like that, man. I like that challenge.
That's a lot of respect there, because I mean, I would imagine the physical ability is one thing, but that mental toughness that you have to go through.
Yes, sir.
I don't know your opinion or experience, Brad, but like the physical part is really not even most of it.
No,
it's all mental.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all mental. It's like,
and that's the thing that you grab onto for the rest of your life.
Yes, sir.
100%.
And even in, the mental part of the training. I mean, if you think about it, and I'm going to put it on you guys in your professional lives because you're so highly accomplished and you go to work every day, probably 7 days a week in some capacity, whether it's mental or actually showing up to the office, right? And that's a grind, man. I mean, that's a grind. And so having that mental strength or mental tenacity, because I know for a fact, I do know for a fact, no one wants to do that all day, every day.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, you have that inner strength
Get up and
to
do it
keep
again.
going, man. And it's not all glamorous. And
where does yours come from? Because you had that going into Kokoro, obviously.
well, I appreciate that.
No, where does that come from?
Well, I'll tell you exactly where it comes from. We grew up and we didn't have much growing up, and we had a real rough childhood. And
Where'd you grow up?
We grew up in Georgia and then moved to a small town, Livingston, Texas. When I'd always say I have a twin brother and a little brother, and we're kind of a package deal, man. And
yeah, that's right.
So anyway, but so Chad and I, we were, I think, 11 or 12 when we moved to Livingston. But it's funny, man, we ran the spectrum of, at one point, our stepfather had, we lived really well, and then he lost literally everything. I say that all this for a reason that's real tough on a mindset of a kid, and because as a kid, you're still trying to figure out what's important, right? Mm-hmm. But at that age, you think maybe the nice house and nice cars and all of that is important, and when you lose that, it's like, Jesus, man, what the hell is going on, Yeah. But anyway, so it just plays mind games on you. And our stepdad was heavy-handed with discipline, and so we got that a little bit. And anyway, so we grew up rough, and at times you try to figure out, man, your value and your worth, and so you question that sometimes. I mean, I'll say it, if you're getting beat on a little bit, or and I don't want to paint too dark of a picture. Was it that dark? But anyway, so we grew up kind of questioning our self-worth, and hence the reason, am I a fraud? I want to have self-respect, and by that, I love when people work hard, and I love when people have good values, and I try to live my life that way. And so maybe that's one of the ways to put myself to the test. Do I have those values that?
Yeah.
Do I have what it takes to do something that hard? And so anyway, and that's where and working hard was easy, only because it's not money or anything. It's just I wanted to feel fulfilled.
Sure. Yeah.
That's where I guess obtain self-worth. What about you guys? I mean, you obviously did Kokoro. You just said, I mean, you were in Hawaii for a while, then San Diego, and being an architect takes an immense amount of dedication, educational-wise. But where did you get yours from?
Probably upbringing as well.
Sure.
I mean, my folks were disciplined, and I think I somehow grasped onto that at a young age, and believed in hard work, and there was athletics, and I was always, an athlete, to a certain extent. And I think that helped. So, I enjoyed the hard work.
Yes, sir.
And it's just this innate thing that probably we all have. That grind is fulfilling.
It is.
No matter what it is. And it's like, 2 weeks ago, I spent 3 days hauling mulch, by myself in a wheelbarrow with a shovel. And they're like, "Why are you doing that?" It's like, "Why don't you no, I just kind of want to get the grind, just sweat and do this thing." But it's like that fulfilling battle that you you don't know until you go through it. And,
Sure.
and I think that's really appealing to me.
Right.
And I love hearing the stories that program that y'all went through is real. I kind of kick myself because I didn't know anything about that. I would have loved
Get after it.
to try that, or an Ironman. Like those are mental
Absolutely.
toughness,
100%.
thresholds that I've never really fulfilled in my life. So I love hearing about those stories and what that takes to go through. And then I'm real curious too about once you go through that, the things that you hold on to, because you have a threshold of pain tolerance and mental awareness that doesn't go away.
Right.
Right. And we talk about this sometime, like there's a threshold that you continuously have to fulfill. And that's something that we probably learn early, and we challenge ourselves early, and I think that threshold increases a little bit more, and then maybe it dips down, but you have this awareness that you and this ability that you can sustain. And so as we get older, I'm curious how you how do you keep testing yourself? Sure. Because my body is, we all work out and we keep this physical and mental awareness, but you break down over time. But that threshold still is real appealing.
Yes, it
in
is.
a way. And so, it could be business, it could be physical ability, it could be all these other things. But what keeps that dopamine hit, going?
Man, that's such a great question, and I'm curious to hear your answer as well. And I still like to physically train really hard, and I mean really, really hard. And again, I'm not trying to sound like these David Goggins type or anything like that, but growing up, I worked in the oil fields for 10 years before I got into hospitality, and I tell anybody that'll listen, that career was by far the most fulfilling for me. And I'm a blue collar guy. I'm very proud of being a blue collar guy. And out there, you're measured by your work ethic, right? And if you don't show up to work, you get weeded out really quickly.
Yeah.
And you have no respect from your crew. And so anyway, and so still to this day, even in the bars, even working out physically, whatever, it's if I don't do something really hard, I don't feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know where that comes from. I think, like you said, it's innate. Maybe it's just growing up.
In. Yeah.
My grandfather and my father were both brick masons, and so it's hard work.
Yeah.
Real hard work.
Yeah. Same here.
So just seeing those guys and not the best examples because our dad was never around, but anyway, seeing those guys and how they worked, it was impressive to me. So bottom line is, it's on a daily basis. It's kind of a non-negotiable for me. I have to do something. And at this point, it's only in the gym, and meaning because I miss the blue-collar work. But I still train really hard to try to reach that threshold. And I love it, though. I love being broke down on a daily basis. I really do.
That's right.
What about you? Because I know you train really hard. You work really hard. So where did yours come from?
The wanting to improve, I think, goes back to, my biological parents probably weren't meant to have kids, right?
I get that.
Yeah, when I was one, my father got in a motorcycle accident and was kind of out of the picture, and then my mother went on to go overdose and was...
I'm sorry, man.
Died, yeah. And so I was raised by my grandparents.
Okay.
And I just always had this sense that I owed them.
Yeah.
I was like, man, because who knows where I'd be if I stuck with my biological parents. So I felt like, man, I owe them to be the best that I can be and reach my true potential. And then, my dad / grandfather, was in construction, and I grew up around that, and hard worker, tough, stoic, and so that was kind of my example. And I always thought like I never would measure up to him. So it was always like, I'm trying to do that. And Kokoro for me was, I went through probably the toughest part of my life in 2010, 2011, and, stopped drinking, stopped all the bad kind of habits, got focused on nutrition and fitness and all that. And then come along 2013, it was like, oh, I found out about this program. I'm like, okay, that's something that I need to be a different person to be able to complete that event.
Yeah.
Like I got to change who I am fundamentally. And whatever reason, I was like, that's worth training and sacrificing for.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the first time I failed it was like the hardest part of the whole thing was me going back to the hotel and calling my wife.
Oof.
And then I didn't, and in my mind, she's like, fuck, dude, this guy, well, the story I'm telling myself is, dude, I just trained 8 months.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah.
Like weekends.
Yes, sir.
And here, and time away from my family. And, all I was doing was talking about it. And and then here I go. My wife's like, well, shit, this, of course, my story.
Yeah.
She's thinking, well, dude, this guy, I wasted all that time. And dude, I was like, fuck this, and literally about 2 weeks later, I was sitting at my desk and I'm like, oh, I got to go.
Of course you did.
I got to go finish that.
Of course. Yeah.
And the big difference, the first time around, I was putting it on Facebook. Hey guys, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do Kokoro. It's a 50-hour Navy SEAL. Yeah. And the second time around, I'm like, dude, I'm not saying a fucking word.
Not till I go.
I'll post something when I finish it. And like you, dude, there was no way I wasn't going to finish it.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, day 2, we did the what killed me on the first round was the hike.
Yeah.
I didn't prepare for it.
Sure.
And so the second time around, we did the hike the first night. And I got through that. I'm like, oh shit, I got this, But then, late in the day too, we were doing something, and I was like, holy shit, like that. I was like, I don't know, dude. I started questioning.
Of course, yeah.
And then I caught it, and I'm like, fuck this. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm gonna call my wife again and tell her I didn't make it. Because the why the second time was, I got to prove to my family that I'm, I'm worth it. Like I'm able and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned, and I don't know how much you want to get into it. I didn't know you were drinking, sounds like heavily or whatever at one time. And kind of the same thing, what prompted me to do Kokoro, I was in the bar business for 23 years. And I always kind of tried to stay relatively healthy, Yeah. But admittedly, I went through some stages, some phases that, and especially building new concepts, we were just working all the time.
Yeah,
and
that's a tough.
I mean, I'm sure you can relate,
tough,
right? And when I'm saying all the time, I'm saying 16, 17, 18-hour days. That's not an exaggeration. Yeah. And so, and you're working in a bar. And so, we had maybe a liquor delivery early. And so anyway, and that became real fun, but it would wear me out. So long story short, it was New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. And I'd gone hard the night before drinking, woke up and I felt just empty. Yeah. And I literally Googled hardest endurance event in the U.S. or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to do something. And Kokoro was one of the things that popped up. And having the military aspect of Navy SEALs, I have such a profound respect for because of their mental tenacity, what we were just talking about. I mean, and okay, this is it. And it instantly changed. And that was kind of the catalyst of an immense change and shift in my overall disposition. What I consider important in life, and I barely drink anymore at all these days and anything. So anyway, I hope that was the catalyst for you. Tell me, look at you. I'm sure it was, but you seem to be in a really good place. And
I all the stuff I was doing leading up to that, 2010, 2011 wasn't serving me anymore. It was affecting my family, affecting everything, So I
gotcha.
I haven't had a drink since 2000, maybe early 2011, but it's been a while. Yeah.
I love stories like that, man. And did you ever go through any of those? I mean, what up and coming? I mean, drinking or anything?
No, I didn't. Gotcha. I mean, I've played with a lot of things, but I don't know. Somehow I just, like, if it didn't make me feel good, I didn't want to do it.
I like that. Yeah.
And there's another part of it where if some of that just makes if I lose control mentally, I don't like it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I just never felt comfortable. It doesn't mean that I didn't try things. I still drink occasionally, and
sure. Yeah.
But I'll, and then, I've got kids now. When I wake up, we're like 100 miles an hour.
Yes, sir.
My family. Yeah. So whenever I wake up, I'm on, right? And so I don't know. I've gone in and out of not working out or working out, and I'll catch myself being lazy and get back on the pony and giddy up again. But but yeah, I think mostly like the struggle has been like the mentalness of this profession that we're in, right? The battle of why the fuck am I doing this? Because I don't know, I could go do something a lot easier and probably make a lot more money.
That's the truth.
And why do I keep waking up every day? And so there's a mental toughness that I have to go through,
yes, sir,
almost daily, weekly, to prepare myself for what I go through each day, which we talk about quite a bit. And that changes often. You know, I cycle through different things and programs and mentorships and such. But yeah, no, I'm always, you know, very respectful of those thresholds that people go through.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? No matter if it's drugs or drinking or family or work but that common thread of similarities of that mental awareness and struggle is really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I love seeing when people just, well, like you said, kind of try to reach that threshold on a daily basis. And it fascinates me what drives people to want to reach that threshold. Because not everybody does it, and it can be in any walk of life. Yeah. I mean, it can be, you know, a guy literally walking to work, you know, and the age-old story of, you know, a couple miles one way and all of that, but that doesn't get much reward from his job, and maybe he has a rough home life, but he does that every day, and that kind of mental tenacity or threshold intrigues me just as much as, you know, the special forces guys in our military and things like that, and architects and just wildly successful people. You know, it's all walks of life. And anyway, it just fascinates me, and I admire the hell out of that. Yeah. I love when people have that drive, and I don't
know that it'd be real interesting. Like if there was a graph to say, you know, to test people's struggle versus their success. Yep. You can measure success by any.
Yes, you can.
So I think there's 100% correlation.
You know what I mean?
Your ability to if you want to call it suffer, or go through challenge or whatever, and your ability and your success and whatever you do. I think 100% correlation to that.
Well, and I know there's a big movement right now about people talking about, you know, finding comfort and discomfort. I know all of that. I get that. But there's something to that. And what you had just said, I do think there's a very strong correlation between highly successful people and the people that just simply don't want to be comfortable, right? Yeah. And I don't know about you guys. I'm not billing myself as highly successful, but I am highly driven. Yeah. And the thing, and I will say I'm petrified. I don't know about you guys. I'm petrified about becoming comfortable in my daily life. Yeah. I mean, petrified. And you know, and I mean that in every sense of that saying, meaning I'm sure we all live comfortably and all of that. Like I mentioned earlier, we have good health and all of that. I'm sure your families are healthy, or God willing they are. Yeah. And you can become comfortable in that lifestyle, you know. Yeah. And you've got great jobs and everything. You can become comfortable in that. Yeah. I don't want that, man. I want to find some way to kind of shake me up a little bit.
Sure.
And say, hey, man, this can be taken away really quickly and be right back in there. As much as I liked the oil fields, that was not a comfortable occupation, you know, and you know, so you could be right back there. And so anyway, I try to live my life daily, reminding myself of that. Yeah. Hence the reason I just want to do something really hard every single day, whatever that may be.
I think, and you know, this is what I preach to my kids, and you know, in Brooklyn actually went and did a 12-hour seal fit event.
Did she really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew this. I love your daughter, by the way. Yeah. I'm so grateful to have met your other one. And how many kids do you have?
I've got 3.
Okay.
So I've got so Callaway, who you just met, is my youngest. Yep. I've got a 20-year-old that's going to school in Arkansas right now.
Yeah. Boy or girl?
Girl. So
okay.
I've got all girls.
Gotcha. Well,
but yeah, we put Brooklyn in that, and
man, I love that.
You know, and I wish I could get, you know, well, my 20-year-old's probably too old for me to, you know, impress that on her, but you know, there's still a chance with Callaway over there. But
yeah, sure.
But you know, what we try to teach them, it's really simple, and I would argue you're a huge success, because to me, fundamentally,
absolutely,
if you give a shit about people, like truly do, which you can honestly tell Brad does, and you can force yourself to do things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Whatever that's, it doesn't have to be a kokoro. It could be a tough conversation. It could be that work you need to do.
Yeah.
But if you're able to do that on a consistent daily basis, you're going to have some level of success.
Yeah.
I mean, it's guaranteed, I think.
There's a level of self-criticism, which I'm curious to see where that started to develop. But I think that self-criticism, and I don't mean that in a negative way in terms of you go for a while and you realize, I'm a little comfortable, and then you switch.
Yeah.
Right. There's that switch or that change in lifestyle or change in moment that I believe we all have in a certain way that will help us not be comfortable.
Yes.
Right. And so that switch, even though, I always kid my kid. I always tease my kids. Y'all are soft, man. Y'all are sitting around, doing your thing and like, come on, get up and sweat.
Mm-hmm.
But that inevitably, I think, will get ingrained in their mentality in a way that one day they're going to get up and they're going to say, maybe they're right. I think I need to do something different and switch. So, like, was that always in you to go, for a period and then change the game and get a little bit uncomfortable with the unknown?
That's a really good question, and I don't know if it came from, I had mentioned, like I said, growing up. So, and this is not a criticism. This is life. My mom was married 4 different times, right? And so we had 4 different experiences with father figures, and maybe it was. I mentioned one of our fathers. He did really well at one time, right? And then, but whenever we moved from Georgia to Texas, he had lost his job, and we had nothing. And so, maybe inherently, I realized. Life is just not always on autopilot, or it's never on autopilot.
That's right. Yeah.
Never. Yeah. And things can change really quickly, and you mentioned self-criticism. I'm very open about, one time I was going to therapy, and I would see a therapist one time a week, and I like talking things out.
Yeah.
You mentioned hard conversations. I think that's another way of you really meet yourself when you're 100% honest with yourself and somebody else.
Yeah.
And I would recommend therapy to anybody. Anyway, this psychologist had been in business for over 30 years, and she came highly recommended. And one session, she looked at me and said, I want to tell you, and I'm just telling you this for a reason, we're going to use this in therapy. She said, out of my 30 plus years of experience, I've never had a patient that is as hard as on his or herself. And I don't wear that as a badge of honor. In fact, it's almost, but I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah.
I don't know where that comes from, but I put myself in check really quickly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
But I just, I kind of want to maintain I just want to be a good human being, and, so anyway, and what does that mean? That's a subjective term.
Yeah, that's true.
What makes a good human being,
But on the other side of it, you also have to have gratitude for yourself in a way that you can say, man, I actually have done a couple things like that. That's
Appreciate
also
that.
the other healthy side of it, because
Yes, sir.
By the small, the little bit of time that I have known you so far, you've achieved a whole lot.
Well, thank you, man. I think we all have in this room.
Sure.
Can you do that though? Can you stop and look back and appreciate kind of what you've done?
Absolutely not. No, no.
My wife tells me all the time.
I was going to ask you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Take your own advice, buddy.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is.
Right? Because you're just going to the next thing.
Well, sure.
Or you're not breathing, or you're not savoring the moment, and I don't know what that is, but it's hard. It's really hard to do.
You know what's cool, and not what's cool, but about Kokoro, we keep going back to that. So what I loved about Kokoro is there's no big balloon finish line. There's no metal.
Oh, right.
There's nothing. You get a coin, and no friends or family are there, but you get a coin and a T-shirt that's terrible. And I love saying that because I love that T-shirt, but the graphic, whatever. Anyway, but you can't buy either one of those things. But there's 100%. No fanfare.
Yeah, it just stops.
It stops.
It just stops. There's no like, hey, congratulations. It's just
exactly.
They're like, okay, guys.
We'll see you.
You're secured.
So and that's the thing. And so like an Ironman, right, or a triathlon or anything, you've got thousands of people rooting you on that don't know you. But anyway, I wouldn't have that any other way. I'm saying this for a reason. I wouldn't have that any other way. Yeah. That coin right now is locked in a very special place for me, and all I wanted was a handshake from you guys.
Yeah.
Job well done, right?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, can I acknowledge? No. And Shayna, your office manager, had asked about awards throughout our career. And I say this humbly. We've won many, but I can't remember specifics. And it's not about that. It really isn't about that. I just want to wake up and do something fulfilling. And thank God you even mentioned, and I'm going to bring it back on you because I admire this so much. You said your business right now is thriving. And you have it's probably blissful that you're not focusing on your bottom line. Now, don't get me wrong. We all need revenue. Sure. And I know but you're focusing on what's important to you, and that's relationships and how your company's culture and all of that, right? And money is obviously a good byproduct of that. Yeah. But you're not doing it to wake up and see a certain amount of zeros in a bank account. Sure. So I think something tells me that both of you guys, too, have a hard time, accepting awards, accepting accolades, but because you just want to do a good business, live a good life. Yeah. And I think that's an exceptional way to live, living a good life without expecting a pat on the back or wanting a pat on the back.
Absolutely.
You damn sure get them.
Yeah.
But you don't want them. So, I do have a real hard time even accepting said awards or anything. It's just, man, I'm just trying to do a good business or trying to live a good life.
So I want to ask you about that. You met Farrell Cabina. Remember, you and I had coffee with him.
Yes, I did. So, yeah. And thank you for that introduction,
absolutely.
By the way.
He, at one point, I think it was 2018, somewhere in there, he got interested in the bar business.
Yes, sir.
Which is funny because he's been sober for a long time, but coming out of the, I think building on the Torchy's experience, I thought, he was interested in that. So, for maybe a few months, I helped him. We did research on the bar business, and you can go out and find out who's really successful. And I'm going to tell you that Brad's business, Dogwood, and this is before I even met you.
Yes, sir.
I think at the time, you guys had Austin, Houston, and did you have? I don't think you had Nashville.
No, I think we were developing Nashville at the time when we met.
And I think at that time, you guys were either the number one or number two bar business in those cities, not counting strip clubs.
Nice.
Strip clubs was a different category. But you guys were like, I think you might have been number one in one and number two in the other.
Thank you.
That's a really hard ass business.
Yes, sir.
To stay and those, they come and go and I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but you guys were successful for a long ass time. Like,
thank you, man.
How did you do that? Like,
I'll tell you, and kind of like, I know we had the same philosophy as you seemingly have with yours, is we just wanted to run a good business, and I tell everybody that'll listen, I say we was myself, my twin brother, Jason Carrier, our business partner, and at one time our little brother too. So very like-minded individuals, which I also think is very important, especially in the bar business. But anyway, the four of us genuinely love serving people. I love to serve people. I love seeing people have a good time in a concept that we created. So what that means is, and we worked at that time 7 days a week. We were in the bars all the time. And even it was bussing tables, ensuring that a table was clean, something seemingly trivial. But we really wanted to ensure people had a good time. And I think customers, actually I know customers notice that. When it's not just a money grab, and when I genuinely care about customers' experience, or we genuinely care, and so excuse me, I think that was just a trickle effect that, like I said, I think word gets out that, hey man, these guys are at the door shaking hands at closing time, thanking us. We don't care about these dudes, but they obviously care about us. Yeah. Maybe we'll start caring about supporting these guys. And so I think it was an organic way of support, of people supporting us. And yes, thank God, the byproduct was some really high gross revenue, and on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
But again, it all goes back to, we all genuinely love serving people.
How'd you get started? How'd you do your first one?
My degenerate twin brother had always wanted to be in the bar business, and I give him all the credit in the world. This started in high school, and his first he dipped his toe into it. He went over to St. Thomas out of college, and no one was hiring, and he said, "Well, I'll work for free." I tell this story. I brag on him all the time, and what do you mean you work for free? I don't want anything. I just want to work for free. And okay, the guy said, "Okay, whatever. You could start, bar backing or whatever, and just do whatever." Uh-huh. He just wanted his foot in. It was, I don't know, a Fat Tuesday maybe. I really want to get this right, but maybe not. But it was a really successful corporate kind of structured bar that you might be able to step up. Yeah. He started managing that place 2 months later, and only because of his work ethic.
Sure.
So anyway, long story short, he had said when we were 27 years old, I was still in the oil fields, and he said, "Man, I think we can do this, but we have to start from the bottom, and we're going to have to start working the door and bartending." And imagine that conversation to, my mom and people that cared at 27 years old. I'm going to start bartending.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Have fun. So anyway, and that's how it started. And one thing that I'm proud of though too is whenever we started, we saved our money, and our business model was we wanted to buy one bar per year for X amount of years, and we didn't have investors at all, and we just saved and saved and saved. So anyway, we had an opportunity to get into our first bar. This was 2000, I believe, and on credit card, max out credit cards and everything, we built this bar. It was so bad, but again, and we were our own staff. It was two of us behind the bar, one at the door, rotating.
Where was it? Where was it?
It was called Chuggin' Monkey on 6th Street, okay. But for whatever reason, man, it just exploded, and we had to start hiring staff. We didn't take a single salary check that entire year. We just worked off of tips and ate ramen noodles and all of that. And I'm proud to say we got into our next bar. A college buddy of ours wanted to be involved, and so anyway, it kind of snowballed, and so. But again, that's another thing. I don't know how you guys run your businesses, but for us, we just wanted to put it back into the business, meaning it's tough. I've seen friends in bars, especially because it's a cash heavy business.
Yeah.
And thank God at that time, especially, we weren't stupid. We just saved our money and reinvested and lived really, 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 minimalist. And so it kind of snowballed, and so
what do you take from that first experience that you still use today? Like
sacrifice. You have to sacrifice. People ask me the number one thing in any business, in my opinion, but you've got to sacrifice. You've got to work your ass off. Pardon the language, and I mean work your ass off. And so, it kind of goes hand in hand with sacrifice and personal relationships. Material things, whatever you time, just simple time.
Yeah.
But, you have to sacrifice a lot of things that make you comfortable.
Yeah.
Whether it's rest, for God's sake, or anything, but you have to sacrifice a lot of things and just put your head down, shut the hell up, and go to work, and that's what we did. And you're going to make mistakes along the way. I still make them every day. I'm sure you guys do too. Like you said, you learn from mistakes every day. Mm-hmm. And I do too. And but anyway, but sacrifice is the number one thing. Mm-hmm. And being an entrepreneur, if you could call it that, is not glamorous.
No, it's not.
And I don't know thankless. About you. It is. It's endless. And, I think I've been completely broke 3 or 4 times over. And I'm sure you guys have too. I don't want to get in your business.
Yeah.
But where you're just wondering, okay, well, Jesus, man, I don't know where our rent payment is going to come from or anything. But But just go to work, man. Sacrifice and work your ass off. Period.
Entrepreneurship now it's kind of it's like the influencers. I'm an entrepreneur, and like it's not the most glamorous thing.
No, it is.
And I always I tell my kids that it's like you're going to have a lot of times. For me, it's like almost every other day where you have to stare into the abyss and like just not know.
Oh,
I don't,
man. Yeah.
I think I know what could happen, but you got to.
There's a lot of faith.
There's not a lot of certainty.
Well, sure.
And that's what keeps me kind of humble. Is I don't want to think about myself in successful terms, because I don't want to get complacent.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, I gotta stay hungry. And I didn't realize that. So I've got a friend that has been like ultra successful. He's a billionaire.
Yeah. And
we were sitting at breakfast, and somebody asked him like, man, why do you still do this?
Yeah.
And because he was talking about some of the stuff he was chasing down, and he goes, man, I wake up every day thinking that I could lose this entire thing. Wow. Which he's in a position where he doesn't have to do anything. He could just not do anything, and it's gonna But I think that mentality, whether you want to say it's healthy or not, is what drives people. And it's like, I got to keep going.
Man, let me ask you this, and you may or may not know this. Do you know where he came from? Meaning,
humble. Humble.
So okay, so that's the thing, and I think I don't know about you guys, your beginnings, and again, I don't want to get too personal, right? Yeah. And maybe none of it's my business.
Yeah, no.
But
this guy,
that's why we're here.
This guy was in the billboard business. I won't say anything more than that. Yeah. But he started it in college, and he dedicated 20 years of his life to building it up, and it ended up being the second or the third largest privately owned billboard business. He was telling me, we were driving around his hometown, and he was showing me where he lived, and by all metrics, he was making a lot of money even in college. I mean, like a lot of money.
Sure.
And but he kept driving. He told me he had this Cadillac he was driving, and he put 300,000 miles on it before he finally went and bought something else.
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you, the first time I met him.
Better man than me.
Yeah. The first time I met him was on a motorcycle trip, and he shows up, and we'd heard about him, but we met through mutual friends, and he shows up in like some ragged, Wrangler jeans and a dirty Carhartt jacket, and you're like, this is really the guy, And he's
sure enough.
He's one of the smartest businessmen that I've ever met. I mean, just phenomenal story. But dude, he came from nothing, and he just worked his freaking butt off.
I love that.
You know what I mean? Just worked his butt off, and of course he's still going today, man, and he doesn't have to.
Man, I'll tell you, I admire that to no end, and that's usually the case if people come from humble beginnings, because it feels good when you start making a little bit of money. Of course, you don't want to lose that, and I wonder if my partners and I we got complacent at times, and actually I know we did, and I find that as a serious character flaw. And so I love when people are like that. It gives me more drive, and
but I think we all get, as humans, we probably get complacent. To a certain point, we all have those thresholds that we get complacent to.
Yes, sir.
And then we recognize it mentally, and we make the switch. Right?
Have you found that in your career?
Oh yeah,
at times. Yeah,
absolutely. I've always questioned, like, why the hell am I in this profession? I could go do something else, or we're making good money, we're comfortable. And then there's a switch for whatever reason, whatever that switch is. But complacency is a healthy thing, I think, because then it allows you to as long as you recognize it. Yeah. Right. As long as you recognize it, it's a healthy thing, because then it allows you to change. It allows you to pick up, change, maneuver, do something different, challenge yourself in another way that makes you better. Right. So I don't know, I know I get complacent, whether it's weekly or daily or monthly or annually, it doesn't matter. But I also know that I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna switch gears. I'm gonna challenge myself in a different direction. Right. And it's always different. Every day is different. Every year is different.
Yes, sir.
So I think it's, in a way, as long as you can recognize it, it should be a good thing.
Right. I understand that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you got out of the bar business.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. How long ago did you do that?
So that's kind of a loaded question. I'll tell you why. Yeah. And so a year ago, it's funny, around this time is May or so, actually a year and a half ago, we had a guy, and I can openly discuss it now, but it was the CEO of the Little Woodrows Group, man, a real good guy, right? And came along out of nowhere and said, hey, I'm interested in buying your entire portfolio, your entire business. And we weren't looking, and so anything's worth a conversation, of course. And at the time, we had, I believe, 5 venues operating, and humbly speaking, they were doing well, and we were about to open a 6th in Fort Worth. Anyway, and so we talked to him, and through negotiations over that, it was around 6 months or so, we unanimously or mutually agreed that he just wanted the 2 Austin locations, okay? So he bought the 2 Austin locations May 1st of last year. He still operated them as Dogwood. I think he just closed down West 6 to reconceptualize. Anyway, so good for them. They're great operators, real good operators. Around the time a year ago, we sold those 2. We thought, okay, well, do we look for an exit? Well, we called another group out of Fort Worth, ironically. And so long story short, they just bought one of our Nashville locations and one of our Houston locations May 1st of this year. Wow. So we still have 1 venue operating. It's consistent. It's steady, and all of that. But the way it feels is we completely got out. Sure. We have an operating partner in Houston that's amazing. I mean, we just... I don't think I've been in that venue in 2 years, and that's almost a criticism, which I should be. Anyway, so yes, sir, I did. And I got to tell you, you said something, staring into the abyss, right? So I'm going to admit something. I'm calling myself out. This is a criticism. When we first sold, we sold everything just a month ago, that was it for me, man. I was planning, let's go. Let's cash out, and let's move to the mountains. And I'm saying this to call myself out. And then I realized, 1, I didn't have life-changing money to do that.
Yeah.
2, I need to work. But much more importantly, and this is a great thing, I realized I want to work, man. And it's only been, 30 days, so, maybe 45 days. Yeah. And I am going out of my mind, staring into the abyss. Yeah. And I mean, you know what I mean? And it's one of those careful what you wish for, fellas. It really is. Yeah. And oh man, I got so caught up in, the excitement of an exit and all of that. Yeah. But again, I want to make this very clear. And even if it was life-changing money, I'd still want to work. So yes, to answer your question, I don't want to drag this on. Yeah. But yes, sir, I got out, but I might dive right back in. I don't know what I want to do. Yeah. But I told you outside, and I'll say this. Whatever I do, I want to absolutely love. Yeah. And so if that is working with my brother again in hospitality, or I mentioned health and wellness, I'm really involved in or intrigued in with. So I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do something. Yeah. And I want to do something as involved as I was in the bar business. Okay. And I hope I'm not one of these that believes in manifestation. I wish I did, because it sounds really cool to manifest these cool opportunities. Yeah. No. And some people live and die by manifesting things. And I wish I could, because I have some grandiose ideas to manifest, but it's not falling into my lap. And that's another life lesson, that you want something, you got to go get it. Yeah. And I'm in the process of going to get it. Yeah. And but it's terrifying. It's exciting. It's terrifying. It's liberating. All of those, adjectives or whatever. But yeah, man. But I'm ready to work, and I want to find something that I want to do, and pour myself into it. So
it'll be exciting to see what you do next.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
And, but I'm going to turn it back on you guys. I don't know if you have an exit strategy, because you guys have been so successful in your respective careers. You might not want to look for the end. I'm telling you. I'm looking at 2 highly motivated individuals. And it's not all about, unless it's family time and stuff like that, great. Yeah. And I'm all for that, do it. But you might not want to look for that exit as much as you think you do. And just take it from me, man. Because just keep grinding, because you guys are really good at what you do. And so keep going, man. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Well,
you gotta wake up.
Maybe, I do imagine an exit strategy at some point, but I also know, just like what you're experiencing, that doesn't mean you're going to stop.
Right.
Right. I mean, we're project oriented. You could call it project, and whether you're hauling mulch, or you're in an oil field, or you're building a new business, there's a project.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
the one thing I learned with Kokoro was, it was the consistent daily investments in that fitness, working out, running, mental toughness, all that. And I developed this thing well, it added up. The consequence of everything I did that last time for 8 months was me being able to get through and finish, right? That was the consequence, right? Yeah. And so then that reshaped the way I looked at life, because like you, that, completely changed my paradigm, So with Citadel, it's just well, we have some fundamentals. We have a code that we live by.
Sure.
And then there's also just daily things that have to happen. And where I'm at now mentally is just I want to see what's possible if you just consistently do these things.
Man, I love that.
And just see, where does it go? It might, like I said, we've been really fortunate up to this point.
Yes,
and what happens if you just keep doing that?
Yes.
And keep making the best decisions you can, instead of having this vision of I want $100 million company. It's I'm curious to see what happens after 10 years of just doing the right thing.
That's right.
I want to wake up in 10 years and go, holy shit, okay, well, I'm going to do it for another 10 years.
Love that, man.
And just see what happens.
I love that.
But I always believe too that it's taken us this long to understand the why.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't find true consistency and self-worth until you know why the hell you're doing it.
Sure.
Right. And
Very
so
true.
you're building the culture, you're building the office. The byproduct is money,
Sure.
and it's some of the other things, and it's well-built projects and all this other stuff, but you're building this culture that you're going to either leave behind, or you're going to you're going to do something with it. And the experience of that is you've got this really healthy atmosphere of individuals that have bought into this culture.
Yes,
that's
sir.
pretty fucking awesome.
Damn right.
To see and show up. And one day I showed up to the office and everybody was doing their thing, and I wasn't, I was just kind of sitting back watching, and I just started videoing the office because everybody was having their own conversations. There was this little machine moving forward, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I like this. Everybody's laughing and joking, and music was playing. That's what we want, right? We want to build this culture that people show up and they're excited.
Yeah.
And they're just doing what they do.
Yeah.
Just so happens to be that we're doing a building like this. Yeah. So that's pretty neat.
Well, thank you.
But it's taken a while. It's taken all these failures and trials and tribulations and events and projects.
I've had good mentors along the way. Farrell, who you met, was probably besides my dad, was probably the biggest impact in my life. It's like in the way Torchy's grew, and I was very fortunate to be part of that and see that from the inside. I mean, they really grew the business on, like you're talking about, just fucking care about the customer.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Care about the customer, care about your employees, maybe a little more than the customer.
Exactly.
It's weird to say that, maybe.
Yes. No, it's not.
But care about the employees a little bit more, and then the consequence will be they'll show up and serve the clients and the customers and the guests. And I saw from the inside how and again, there's a little luck involved maybe, and timing and all that. But the fundamentals of that business was you give a shit about the people, both employees and customers.
Right.
And it's going to explode. Yeah. And I saw it. And I was like, I could do that maybe with a construction business.
That's right.
Man, I couldn't agree more with what you said about employees. I think they're the lifeline of any business.
Absolutely.
Period. I mean, period. And I think they need to be heard.
Yeah.
I know there's limitations about, of course, pay caps, all of that, of course. I mean, you have to be concerned about your bottom line, but respect goes a long way.
Yes.
I mean, it really does. And getting your employees, I call them colleagues, but involved in your day-to-day vision,
that's right.
your day-to-day goal. I think will benefit you exponentially more in the long run than, than focusing on, the profitability or whatever. I think that just comes along, right?
Yeah.
And what you said, cheesy term, sounds magical. Filming your work environment.
Yeah.
Because you're so proud, and they don't know it.
They don't know it.
They didn't know the boss was coming in, and to be able to do that, because frankly, some work environments, if you film without them knowing, you're not going to like what you see.
True. That's true. Yeah.
So you should be profoundly proud of that, and so, and also it sustains your business for God knows how long.
Yeah.
You keep going. So anyway, people truly vested in your success and theirs.
I think we sometimes are, we forget that we're all service industry.
Yes, sir.
You're
exactly
we're all
right.
giving, and we're all supporting, and we need others in order for us to survive.
Right.
And when you forget that, when that ego kicks in and you forget that, then I think you lose perspective.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can keep centered in a way that that this shit could go away. Those people don't need me. They just go somewhere else down the road.
Man, how true.
How true. And if you can maintain that, I think that success and that culture, that top-down theory in terms of how we treat others, and that's the most important part of it. That stuff will live on.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the give back.
You guys also are creating a legacy from what it sounds like, and with family, of course, but also with your employees. And so, to me, that's also you should be really proud of that. Anyway, I'm validating everything you're saying. Not that you need validation, but you guys are doing it right, man. Hence the reason that you're so successful.
Yeah.
So keep it up, man.
What do you, 10 years from now, what do you want to pick your head up and look around and see 10 years from now for you?
Man, that's a really good question, and for me personally, it's funny. I had a woman. I mentioned the word, or brought up the word legacy. I had a woman on a job site one time, out of nowhere, asked me what I wanted my legacy to be, and it stumped me. And I think about this all the time because, especially on podcasts and things like that, we have to have this profoundly wise answer, and I don't have one. But I'm going to explain that, or try to. Sure. Man, I want to wake up, and this is not the Boy Scout answer. It really isn't. I just want to wake up knowing that I put nothing but good into the world, and so, sure. And by that I mean I've been really fortunate to employ at this point over, I'd think, 600 people, I would give or take, and culture was really important to us. And so meaning I would hope that their employment with us was a positive experience, that they walk away and think, I wouldn't do everything the way they did it, but I learned some things, meaning I hope we put even more business leaders into the community, or, positive members of the community and society, frankly. And but again, at the end of the day, Boy Scout answer, but it's true. I want to wake up knowing that I live my life trying to be a good human being on a daily basis. And I mean that. And so what does that mean? I don't know. I might be living in a double wide trailer somewhere. True story. Or I might be living on a mountain in Malibu, or a cliff in Malibu. I don't know. But I really want to wake up knowing that I live my life right. And trying to do business and trying to have relationships the right way without wanting something from those relationships. And so far I've done that. And I feel really content. I screw up all the time. And man, I do some things that I question my character all the time. But I'm pretty proud so far. And so 10 years from now, I just want to be proud of the human being that I've been. You mentioned your grandfather. Last thing I'll say, I don't know what time we're on, but the most the best relationship, most important relationship of my life was with my grandmother. And she was the best human being that I know. And I want to wake up 10 years from now knowing she'd be proud.
Yeah.
So, true statement, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, through all my faults. And so, and trust me, she could care less about bank accounts or anything.
Sure.
So, I want her to be proud, man.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay.
So,
That's a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
You there's that we call it self-worth, but I think, to have that peace of mind in terms of, this was a hard life. And I did a lot of zigzagging and failures, but I can still go to sleep at night knowing that I had the hard conversation.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I did these things that created a fair and balanced and equal end result.
Yes, sir.
Right? And
yes, sir.
And I think that's really respectful.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, and something tells me for you guys, it's vitally important for your children to look at you in that light. Absolutely. And no doubt they do. I mean, no doubt I know they do for you. And this hour-long, give or take conversation, from what little I know they do, that look up to you, and I know they do. And so, I mean, if nothing else, you guys have already won. Sons of bitches. I still have 10 years, apparently. But anyway, job well done.
Thank you very much.
All the way around.
Yeah, listen, we've kind of reached the end, but I did want to say, Brad, I really, really appreciate you. And it's really rare right now that you run into people that have an impact on others. I mean, it goes without saying, prime example, J-Rob, was super excited to hear that, we were gonna meet today. I mean, you've impacted his life. Countless people that we know, just you've impacted their life, dude, and you've impacted my life hugely. I mean, I'll never forget, taking you to the hospital that day and going, man, this guy gives a shit about other people in this moment when he should be licking his wounds, and he's, and just like you mentioned, like have inside of a serious health, and you cared about other people. And that's just, I gotta say, that's amazing. And you've definitely impacted me since then. And I appreciate you.
Thank you, man. And I want to turn that around on you. And I'm glad I have the opportunity to say this, but, same thing. And I'm not going to share this right now. You had said something to me, at the tail end of Kokoro. It was a general statement, but the way you said it, I knew everything was going to be just fine. And coming from someone like you, it meant a lot. And I've held on to our relationship a lot, so thank you. And in the brief amount of time, man, I'm telling you, I just appreciate you guys having me. Doing things like this mean more to me than anything, because you guys thrive in this community. And frankly, you set the standard, in my opinion. And it's a standard I try to live up to. So, thank you, man. And I appreciate you guys having me.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Good to know you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cool.
splitting time.
Yeah.
And that's another thing.